after Mr Portillo declared that the Labour Party leader absolutely doesn't want to become Prime Minister while Brexit is an open question. The failed candidate remarked that Mr Corbyn would jump at the chance. However, the comments from Ms Kendall were not acknowledged by either the BBC host or Mr Portillo. Instead, Mr Neil suggested that Corbynistas are desperately hoping for an election in the first half of 2018 to avoid a vote slipping from their hands. He explained, "My feelings are opposite. I mean, normally the Corbynistas that I speak to, they're worried that the longer there isn't an election, the more it may slip from their hands." BBC The comments from Ms Kendall were not acknowledged by either the BBC host or Mr Portillo. They think at the moment, if there was an election call for whatever reason, that they would end up the largest party. If there was an election in the first half of this year, Mr Neil used the examples of notable figures like Angela Merkel and Hillary Clinton to demonstrate that Mr Corbyn could swiftly fall from the approval of his party and supporters. He went on, "Corbynistas are not so sure that would be the case, because we live in a world where you're up, you're down. Ask Mrs Sturgeon, ask David E. Cameron, ask Hillary Clinton, ask Merkel. They are worried that if they don't get an election quite quickly, can't be as sure of the outcome as they are now." The failed Labour candidate attempted to reiterate her points by interrupting the presenter. She exclaimed, "I think he'd jump at it." The attempts from Ms Kendall were futile once again as Mr Portillo responded to the comments from Mr Neil. He replied, "Oh no, I think for Labour to inherit this mess would be a nightmare." BBC Neil suggested Corbynistas are desperately hoping for an election in the first half of 2018. BBC The attempts from Ms Kendall were futile as Mr Portillo responded to the comments from Mr Neil. "I think it's right that they can't be sure of the outcome. I would stick to saying that I think trying to deal with this situation for the Labour Party would be highly destructive. With a pretty Eurosceptical leadership and a pretty enthusiastic Labour Party parliamentary membership, I think they would do well to let the Tories go on trying to make sense of this."